Hello, folks. Welcome to Scratch the Surface. I'm EJ Scott. Today, my guest is Anson Mount. Anson is playing the legendary comic book character Black Bolt in the upcoming Inhumans series on ABC. But before I talk about what we talked about, I'd like to give myself a plug. Find me on Twitter at EJ Scott and the podcast at EJ Podcast. I have a website, ejscott.com. I'm on Instagram, ejscott1106. I'm raising money for charity. Go to crowdrise.com/7on7. That's the number 7 on the number 7. I have a list of charities that I'm raising money for, so give what you can there. Also, I was in a documentary called Running Blind, and you can find that on iTunes, Amazon, or Google Play. And for $2 or $3, you can rent it or buy it. And what that's about is, I'm losing my eyesight to an eye disease called choroideremia, and it runs in my family. My brother has it, my nephews have it, my grandfather was blind from it, and I'm always trying to raise money and awareness for the cause and the disease. And in 2012, I ran 12 marathons in 12 months in 12 states, blindfolded, and was able to get a documentary made about it called Running Blind. It's about 30 minutes long, and it's well worth your time and money if you go check it out. Thank you very much. Okay, so I met Anson at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was a real nice guy, really approachable, and he was doing his own podcast. He was the first second I met him, he was recording me for his own podcast. So I felt brave enough to ask him to do my podcast, and he was kind enough to spare some time for me while he was in Los Angeles. So we talk about a lot of stuff. Anson was the lead on a show called Hell on Wheels for 5 seasons on AMC, and we talk about that. We talk about playing Black Bolt. For those that are not familiar with Black Bolt, he does not talk, because one of his powers is he could do a lot of things with his voice. He could destroy things with his voice, so he can't really speak. So Anson talks to me about developing his own sign language for the show. We talk about lots of stuff. He worked with Robert DeNiro in a movie called City by the Sea. We talk about that. He worked with Britney Spears and Taryn Manning and Zoe Saldana in a movie called Crossroads. We talk about that. We talk about extraterrestrial stuff. We talk about vaping. We talk about falling in love. We talk about lots of stuff. So we talk about a lot of good stuff, including Inhumans. What we can talk about, we talk about, because it's not out yet. It comes out in theaters. Actually, the first 2 episodes come out in theaters on September 1st. And he recommends it. I'm going to go check it out on September 1st. And then after that, it'll be at the end of September. The rest of, I guess it'll air every week, starting at the end of September, for 8 episodes or so. But I'm really looking forward to it. He was a hell of a nice guy. We greatly appreciate your time, Anson. And so everybody listening, this is from August 5th, 2017. Please enjoy my talk with Anson Mount. Hi, Anson.
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I met you, the first time I met you very briefly on the signing line for the Inhumans at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. Didn't you tell me you're a vet?
No.
Oh, shoot. That was somebody else then.
If I did, I was
So I thought I knew you.
No, what do they call that? Was it when you're pretending to be a vet? It's false. What's it called? There's a term for it.
Yeah, there was a podcast I listened to recently about this issue of these people who have, because there are people that pretend to be vets and for whatever reason, and so now there are these people that try to out fake vets,
yeah.
But they've gotten it wrong in the past.
The people calling out the fake vet has gotten it wrong.
Like publicly shaming old men who really are vets. Yeah, it's.
Well, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
Are you? Did you ever do any military stuff? You never did anything like that.
No, my father served
Gotcha.
in World War II and Korea, although he was in the VA hospital for all of Korea. And I just, so I grew up with a respect for the armed services, and I support Team Rubicon and Wounded Warriors. I'm hoping to get involved with. I haven't managed to reach out to them yet. But
Did you agree to do my podcast because you thought I was a vet?
No. No.
Part of you is like, get the hell out of here. No. I'm joking. But I read that your great-great-great-grandfather was in, like, the Confederate Civil War?
Yeah, I think that's the right number of grades.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
That's what it said.
Yeah, no, he
grades.
was, from what I understand, he was a cavalry colonel for the Confederacy.
Wow.
Yeah, and we still, my uncle apparently still has the piece of paper that listed everything that was in his pockets when he was shot.
Oh, so he was killed during battle.
Yeah. Actually, somehow I managed to inherit his military composite, which is framed on my wall, but it was photo tinted, 150 years ago. So the chemicals have changed, and so he's kind of green now.
All right, still kind of cool though.
Yeah,
it's still pretty neat.
I guess he had a fantic neck beard.
Oh, yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have great razors back then.
No.
They didn't have shit or anything. I shaved with 5 razors on my thing. You know what I mean? So
Right. Oh, yeah.
5 blades.
I hate shaving.
Me too. You didn't have to do much of that for Hell on Wheels.
Yeah,
That must have been a nice time.
Surviving summers with a beard isn't not the most fun thing, but it was in Alberta, so it wasn't too bad.
That lasted for 4 or 5 seasons?
Hell on Wheels? 6 seasons technically, but we did it in 5 orders.
That's awesome.
Not including the pilot. So yeah, 6 years all told.
How'd you like doing that? I honestly, I didn't see much of that show. I just watched the pilot last night. And it was really good. And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it.
Thanks.
And it looks grand on scale. At least the first episode, there's a lot going on. It's a period movie. TV show. It
was maybe the best pilot I'd ever read. And it really just knocked me on one of my people at my management company browbeat me into reading it because I was teching a play at the time and I was busy, and she was like, just read the first 5 pages, and if you don't like it, throw it away, but you're gonna like it. So I couldn't put it down and determined that I was gonna get the role, and it was a lot of competition, but I'm lucky that the Gaten brothers who wrote it, they were determined, and so was David Von Enken, the director, was determined that they preferred to find a real American, because these days if there's a role with any testosterone, the casting directors just start calling Australians, and they wanted to right, and they were hoping to find somebody who's Southern, so I think that helped a lot. And I do believe that there are qualities to a Southern character that most people from the South would miss, but it's probably the same as if it's a character from Maine or a character from, Mexico or the UK. They're just social and cultural and, differences right down to the sense of humor that help to inform that role.
Are you a history buff? Or did you learn a lot? You must have learned a lot about history.
It's funny. I was blessed to have some very talented history teachers in high school. It wasn't my focus because I was determined I was going to be in the arts, so I didn't really think about it at the time. But we had really talented history teachers, particularly Carl Pettis, who's my American U.S. history teacher. Going good. Yep. He was my junior high American history teacher. And we did the majority of a semester on the Civil War. And I can still remember some of his classes like it was yesterday.
Was he for it or against it?
I think he's just one of these guys who goes to Civil War battlefields and walks around and finds bullets. Like he's He's really, and he's read almost every book there is on the Civil War. And so, yeah, I've become more of a history buff.
Your character in Hell on Wheels was a former slave owner, right?
Yeah.
And now was fighting, and it had changed his mind, from what I gathered on the pilot, from his wife. Changed his point of view on that, correct?
I'm gonna give you a spoiler here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
He's lying about that.
Oh, son of a bitch.
But it's a lie that takes about 3 seasons to find out.
I'll binge it in a weekend and I'll read it.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. That's funny. So, did you do a lot of research for that show and stuff? Or people must have educated.
You know, I was pretty versed in the Civil War, but I hadn't read a lot about Reconstruction, so I did have to go back and do a little research there, particularly how that affected the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. I read a great book called Nothing Like It in the World by Stephen Ambrose, who wrote Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
And this is his, it's said to be his only non-military subject. It's about the railroad, but when you read it, you realize that that's actually wrong. It is a military subject, right, because it was built by these vets who needed a job, and it was run like a military. And in fact, one of the people that Cullen Bohannon is based on was a retired Union general named Granville Dodge.
Oh, do you when you travel? You go to like museums and stuff. Do you feel more connected when you see like something period around that time? Do you just like pay more attention? Do you soak it up more, or do you go, oh, that's familiar?
No, you know what I do is I trade off when I read a lot, and I tend to go like fiction to nonfiction to fiction to nonfiction to wherever my curiosity takes me, and a lot of those are history. I became interested in. I became interested in the end of the Tsarist regime in Russia and
Russia. That's not relevant these days.
And particularly the history of Rasputin and the royal family.
Huh.
And I've read a bit about Sierra Leone, and but my curiosity just sort of goes where it will.
Yeah.
So right now I'm very interested in this Medi. Have you heard about Medi?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a historical subject, but you know what SETI is?
No.
SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it's
okay.
they run all these big radio dish arrays.
Okay.
They're listening for radio signals.
Okay.
And METI is a very controversial offshoot of this. It has nothing to do with SETI, but it's from some of the same people. It's a messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. So it's actually they're making data packets and shooting them at where we see there to be likely habitable planets. You know, we're mapping these things now, and it's a very controversial thing.
Why is it controversial?
Well, you know, when you think about when the Europeans came to the Americas, things didn't go too well for the Native Americans and South Americans.
What? What do you mean? Yeah. Okay, so it's controversial because maybe somebody out there would come here, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, in the history of the thought on this subject, one of the cases that's been made is we're relatively young in terms of the history of the universe. So if we do make contact with a higher intelligence, something that's able to comprehend radio signals or any kind of signaling, the likelihood that it's far more likely that they're going to be more advanced than we are.
Okay.
So that's the concern.
What do you think of that? What do you think of the idea of us trying to make contact with possibly a more advanced? I mean, we're okay.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we don't need any...
I think there's just something in our nature that that needs to explore. There is this argument about there. I can't remember the name of this argument, but it calls into question Drake's equation, which is the likely number of civilizations out there, and it says if there's so many intelligent civilizations out there, or if the likelihood is that great, why haven't we heard from anybody? And that argument dismisses with the possibility that we may be alone in this instinct. It may very well be a very illogical thing to want to explore or look for other civilizations.
Right.
We might find out we're the only ones who give a crap about anybody outside of our own existence.
We're the only social planet,
or the only ones who it's even occurred to us.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other people are like, what? You go stay on your
Right.
planet. This is my
Right.
space. Well, it's funny. What if we find a guy that opens his mouth and can destroy a city with just his voice? What if that happens?
That would be fine. I think we should stay away.
Yeah, he says stay away and everybody's dead.
Right,
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue into the Inhumans, which I'm sure we can't talk about. But
man, it's like working for the damn CIA. I swear. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, all right, why?
Let's talk about Batman.
Why? Yeah. Why is this so secret?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but yeah.
Well, that's why I want to call this like a part one, because I'd love to talk to you in like a year or two about the Inhumans when it airs and stuff like that. Hopefully there'll be a second season and all that good stuff. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Sure.
But we'll talk about what we can talk about. So, are you a comic book guy? Oh, wait, what's that?
Yeah, with that?
Yeah, what is that?
It's a vape.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind is that?
What kind?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean. What the brand is?
I don't know. What is it like for nicotine, or what is it? Are
Yeah.
you a smoker?
Yeah. No, I used to chew tobacco, and I'm trying to.
Okay, you're trying to wean
not
off.
do that.
Does that help?
Yeah.
I used to smoke 15 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was pre-vaping.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, were you a comic book guy?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a Marvel kid.
That's right.
Anything Marvel I could get my hands on. I had a subscription to Peter Parker and the Avengers, and read the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah.
What else did I like? I was kind of like an antique comic book geek.
Golden Age stuff or something?
Well, my mom was a big antiquer, and she would go and find potentially valuable furniture and refinish it and resell it.
Oh.
And it was a hobby of hers, and I did it with her for a while. But I found myself sort of going to these large antique malls and looking for just bins of comic books or magazines and seeing what I could find. And I found some really good stuff. I found an original Donald Duck. I found some old X-Men. I can't remember what all I have. They're in storage.
How many do you have? How many comics do you have?
Not a lot. Probably 150 or 200.
That's
something
it.
like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have it. We weren't poor, but we weren't terribly off. So
Right.
well off. But so I focused on trying to find good finds, and yeah, I still haven't found the Action Comics #1 that I'm destined to find.
Yeah. It's on eBay.
I looked for at Comic-Con. I looked for a Fantastic Four #45, which is the first appearance of the Inhumans.
Yeah.
I found it.
Yeah. How much?
$800.
You should have tried last year.
My friend found. Yeah, I know. My friend found one last year for $300, and I told him to buy it.
The ironic thing is, because of your show, those are going to skyrocket in price.
Well,
Isn't that
let's
crazy?
hope they could tank. Also,
I don't think so. I think people are pretty psyched about the show.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm going to go see it in theaters.
Yeah,
That's pretty
I
neat.
think you should. Actually, I've been encouraging all my friends to do the same. Not because I want my friends to see me on IMAX, but because a lot of people don't realize that the editing procedure for IMAX is completely different than it is for television, and this is edited for IMAX. And shot for IMAX. There are things that you can do with the camera for television you cannot do.
Yeah.
for IMAX, because you always run the risk with a screen and a projection that large that you're going to make your audience sick. So you have to stabilize things, and you can't be jumping around too much.
Right.
So when you shrink that down to television, the editing, it can actually look a bit slow,
Right.
or not slow, but not particularly inspired, but it actually is. You just have to see it in the right format.
Right.
Because we saw it both when we saw the scenes that they showed 4 scenes at Comic-Con, and we saw them first on television, and then we went to the IMAX pop-up. And, you know, every now and then there's a little thing that was like, what? He just, like, walks out from behind a tree? And then you see it on IMAX, and you're like, whoa! He just came out from behind a tree! You know?
That's amazing.
That's amazing!
How do they do that?
Yeah. So I really do encourage people to see it on IMAX.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so funny. Oh, wow. Did you see any full episodes yet?
No.
Are you going to see the premiere? I assume, will there be a premiere? Like a...
There is going to be a premiere. They're still deciding where and when.
IMAX theater, I assume.
It's got to be an IMAX theater, yeah. I am not at liberty to say how and when, but I will be seeing it before that.
Okay. Probably like the extraterrestrials will help you out.
Right.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jeff Loeb, if you're listening, invite me to the premiere, please. Thank you. All right. So you're a big nerd. So how excited were you about the possibility of playing Black Bolt in the Inhumans?
I was beyond flattered. Beyond flattered.
Yeah.
That, first of all, Jeff would call me about anything. We had met before that when I was still doing Hell on Wheels. He's very good friends with John Worth, who's the showrunner on Hell on Wheels.
Uh-huh.
And we had a great meeting, particularly talking about Jeff's background. You know, he's
Oh yeah.
He's a big name in the comic book world.
Oh, yeah.
And but it wasn't just being approached with this iconic role. It was really the tightrope walk of wow, lead of a show that doesn't speak.
Yeah.
I like challenges.
Yeah.
They keep me interested, and I knew that was one that I just started salivating for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you get the script? I guess they're all shot, right?
Yeah.
All
Oh, yeah.
shot.
Yeah. We finished in early June.
Oh, okay. That's pretty recent. With the scripts, would you get a script and study it like you would normally a scene, or do you just go, I'll just show up and they can just tell me what to do?
No, that's impossible.
Yeah.
That's impossible with this role. No, there were several levels. Yes, I did do my homework on the scene level and as an actor, and is connecting all this stuff both in terms of story and what I could bring to the scene. But then there's I didn't just show up and flap my hands, right? I was determined that I was going to build an actual language. But that doesn't just come to you naturally, particularly when you're not using your mouth, you're using your hands, and I was not used to that.
You're doing a sign language.
Right. So I had to figure out what the signs were, how they connected, what the logic of the verb tenses was, and I had to sit down and really translate every night. And then I had to get it into the muscle memory of my body so that I wouldn't be thinking about it when I'm trying to do the scene. And that's just like rehearsing a dance. You got to be able to walk when you dance. You got to be able to walk on the stage and not think about what your next move is. You got to know. And then I would send video files to Serinda, who's playing my wife and translator, so that she would know what the lines were. So it would be on the same. Here, I'll show you.
That's
My
interesting.
I kept a Google. Around here. Yeah, I can pull it up on here. So I made
Did you study sign language like the regular at all? Did you take a look at that?
I had a sign consultant when we spoke about ASL,
Uh-huh.
but I was determined not to use any ASL because the Inhumans are not from Earth. He wouldn't know ASL. So I would check some ASL signs to make sure I wasn't overlapping.
Right.
But here's the Google Doc of my glossary. I'll just show you.
Yeah. Let me see.
So these are the earlier ones. I just started with the names of the different characters, right? And then adjectives or verbs that are associated with those characters, right? And
Medusa, you touch your hair. That makes sense.
right. And then I started building out from there with.
So what you're showing me on your laptop is was this a website?
So
or
verb.
something?
So then we get into
Google.
verb tenses, and then qualifiers, conjunctions, location and time.
I'm seeing dozens and dozens of videos. These are
No, these are not.
pictures?
These are still pictures.
These are still pictures.
But
okay.
I do have videos of some sentences, conjunctions. Let's see, and then the overall glossary, and this just is. What is this, like 46 pages now?
Oh my god. So you did this on your own,
So
basically?
then I'll turn off the volume and show you one of the videos so that I don't have Marvel come here and cut off a finger.
Well, you would destroy my mic, I think.
Right. But these are the. Let's see here. Okay, that's.
Okay. So you got a bunch of videos.
Yeah,
You're
let's
showing me.
This is so you can see I'm still still in my head, right?
Right. Still
So let's go to
learning.
the end of this.
And your mouth is moving. So you are saying like words associated with the, just to make it easier for
So
you.
these are the translations of my lines in the script, and these are the videos that I would send to Serinda. You can see I'm speaking at the same time,
Yeah.
so she knows what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And this is just a chance for me to get clear about what I'm saying also.
Oh wow. And how long did it take you to come up with the language?
It was a process. Fortunately, because of the way that TV and film works, especially television, you're shooting really, especially in action, you're shooting really small pieces at a time. So I was never overwhelmed, and there was also, you can see, I could see in the material where the writer's room was starting to trust me a little bit more and more and more and more, and actually giving me a few more things to say, and not
decide.
like having people sort of speak for me,
Right.
magically knowing what my intention is. So yeah, it was a process, and just like learning to ride a horse on a set, it's a skill that I got better with by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So just that, moving that mind-mouth connection to the mind-hand connection, just that, I was surprised at how hard, at how much time it took in practice to get there. But it got there, and I started to be able to intuitively know if there was a line change or something. I would kind of intuitively start to know from my hands what I needed to do.
Well, now if there's a season 2, you've got a big break between the end of the first season to beginning of the second season. Are you gonna try to bone up on your sign, or otherwise you could get rusty? Come up with
No, I mean, what I will likely do is I'll ask Scott if there's any big speech or anything coming up, to let me know as soon as possible.
Scott Buck, the showrunner.
Right.
Cool. What? Where are you from originally?
Tennessee.
Okay, born and raised.
I was born in
Weren't you born in Mount Prospect, Illinois?
No, I was born in Mount Prospect.
Which is funny.
Or I believe Mount Prospect. Because my father was working for Playboy, which was based in Chicago at the time, and then my father's from the South, my mother's from South Carolina, and she was just done with the winters, and we moved.
Yeah.
We moved back to Tennessee on my 3rd birthday, so I don't really remember Illinois at all.
And your parents are from the South?
Yeah, my father's from Tennessee, same hometown, and my mother's from Seneca, South Carolina.
Why'd they move to Illinois?
Because my father worked for Playboy.
Oh, okay, right.
And then there was an invention called the fax machine that allowed him to not be based in Chicago.
What was that like, your dad working for Playboy? Were there just Playboys all over the house, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it was it was bizarre looking back on it, growing up in a very conservative small town Tennessee.
Yeah.
And living in a house with, 2 parents who were hippies, albeit Reagan voters.
Huh.
But pot smokers and
yeah.
Playboys on the coffee table.
Did you get to meet
I was
playmates or
shocked
like
it actually didn't cause more ruckus. But my father was just such an amiable, charismatic guy. And the fact that he'd gone on and made a name for himself as a journalist, it was a big deal for that small town, I think, at the time. So, but yeah, it was, I was blessed to have 2 parents who had sort of, I think that there's something when you don't leave a place, or you don't leave your own sort of home base. I think that leaving that home base starts to appear like a bigger and bigger obstacle as you grow older.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully they had done it, and they're like, you can actually go to school wherever you want. And I, for whatever reason, chose to stay in state. Mm-hmm. Went to Swanee. But then coming out of that, it was no question I was going to go to New York.
Study acting?
Yeah. Went to Columbia.
Oh, and you have siblings?
I have 3 half-siblings. I just saw them.
Oh, they're all half-siblings?
Yeah, they were from my father's first marriage, and they're all pretty much still in Chicago, or around Chicago. One of my sisters is based in Utah now, but she's back there fairly frequently.
Yeah, do you guys get along?
Yeah.
Growing up, it was okay growing up?
Yeah, I didn't see him much, but yeah.
Because you're the youngest of them all, right?
Yeah.
What's the age gap there? What's the next older one?
My youngest sibling is 8 years older than me.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
But for not having grown up with each other, we've done pretty good.
Yeah.
I just, I'm very busy these days, and I don't have as much time to devote to family as I would like. So it is a constant corner of guilt in my mind for, not seeing them enough, not seeing my mom enough. But I've determined that, it takes a lot to do this career.
Yeah.
And do it consistently.
Yeah.
And
do they understand that?
Yeah,
a little bit?
They understand that.
Yeah.
Especially my mom.
Yeah.
She's definitely understands it. And also, I'm happiest when I'm working. And I'm not good with vacations.
Yeah.
I'm really not.
Downtime? You don't like downtime?
I'm really not. Even if I go, somewhere with a beach and some books, I'm like, after about a week, I'm like, okay, all right, what are we doing?
Well, Trump's taking 17 days vacation. Maybe he'll get bored after a week. I've seen your Twitter. You're pretty political. Yeah,
I am.
Right?
I am, but I also try to be mindful of I really don't like actors or celebrities in general who they suddenly have a microphone in front of their face, and so they suddenly start using it.
Mm-hmm.
I think my social media is different because it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten, it's allowed me actually to learn how to hear other people's opinions better as I've gotten older. Or maybe that's just getting older. But to suddenly, you have a microphone that talks back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I think that's actually a healthy thing.
Yeah. Have you been interacting with your followers?
Oh yeah.
In debate? And
Oh
stuff?
yeah. And I encourage people to have their own opinions, even if I don't agree with them, as long as they're not rude to other people.
Right. Have you had to block people?
Oh yeah. And I have no problem doing it. Life is too short, my friend.
Yeah. Well, is it because, like you said, you were raised by hippies in a more conservative town? Does that help you have a more general base for both sides?
Yeah, oh definitely. I would say a very large portion of my friends, my family, we probably agree very little politically. But then again, I would say when people ask me my political affiliations, I start by saying I hate party politics. And to describe where I stand politically, when I'm in Tennessee, I'm called a flaming liberal, and when I'm in California, I am called an arch conservative.
But you're maybe more bipartisan? Would you say?
I have a high degree of respect for politicians who have the balls to reach across, or I shouldn't say that. That's a very masculine thing, or that's a male male-oriented thing to say. Politicians who have the courage to reach across the aisle. Especially these days, I have a great amount of respect. Lamar Alexander, and his second in command and his committee chair, or his committee, which I forget her name right now, and I apologize, but the bipartisan effort to go at lending some leadership to fixing the ACA is exactly what needs to happen, and it took some time, but I'm glad to see it happening.
You ever think of running for politics?
Hell no. Oh my goodness. I could not think of a worse fate. And I think I'm way too sincere of a person to ever have any success in politics. Well, if I had gone early enough, I probably would have been hardworking enough to have made a place for myself in Washington. I don't think I would ever have run for office. And I don't think I would have been tremendously successful because I don't think I was very street smart when I was younger.
But well, maybe we need more people like you in there that are willing to say, "Oh, I'll listen to your views and we'll work together." You know what I mean? Instead of there is such a strong.
The problem, I think, is that we have had people like that, and I think that the political climate is so vociferous that even in the attempt to reach across the aisle, for a lot of times, the din from the opposite side of wherever they happen to stand party-wise is so loud that it drowns out that attempt, and they oftentimes get colored as being arrogant or condescending or as doing the opposite of what they're actually trying to do. And so, I don't know. I'd like to be more optimistic about it, but I have my faith in the human ability to step outside of the box has been really hit recently, in the past year. And it's part of the reason that I'm starting my own podcast, which blatant left turn into a plug.
Yeah. I was going to ask you.
But no, I've had this idea in my hip pocket for a number of years. And like I say, I think that the ability to think outside the box in any area of life or career is something that is not given enough attention, because we're so encapsulated in our news cycle and our entertainment cycle these days that it's just easy to ask people the same frickin' questions they've been asked 15 times over about that only thing that we associate with them. So Brandon Edgens, my producing partner, and myself, we're starting this podcast called The Well, which is interviews and stories about creative inspiration. And the idea was basically to sit down and talk with people about that thing that you didn't know that they do, but it's branched out from there.
Okay.
The other day, do you know the clothing designer Cynthia Rowley?
Further.
We had a fantastic conversation about surfing.
Oh, that's great.
Who would have known she gets ideas from surfing? Oh. And that's just sort of at the tip of the iceberg. I'm working right now. I'm working on editing an episode with my conversation with Coach June Jones, who led the single greatest turnaround in the history of college football when he went and took over the program at Hawaii in 1999. And he did it in one season, and it's about how he changed those mindsets and changed the culture into a culture of winning in Hawaii. And then, of course, there's going to be lots of celebrities, because that's what gets the headlines these days.
Also, that's who you know mostly, right?
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who are, their names are recognized, and that's going to help get the show launched. And they're fascinating people in and of themselves. Yeah. Serinda Swan, who we already talked about, her episode is going to be very interesting. She created a charity fundraiser called 18 for 18 that she somehow figured out how to raise $250,000 a year to help end child sex trafficking in Cambodia by convincing actors to jump out of a plane. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And they do it in the matter of like a week and a half. And it's amazing.
How many celebrities jump out of planes?
I don't know how many went this year, but it's been growing.
Have you done it?
Not yet.
No.
She asked me.
Yeah.
Might do it.
Oh boy.
But I live in New York, so it's hard,
Insurance companies gonna love that.
Right. And then A1 Rayon, he is a wonderful songwriter. Wonderful, wonderful songwriter. And singer. And so I've got an episode where we just sat and talked, and he played a few tunes and talked about how they're related to his life and what his relationship to music is as compared to acting.
Are they up now?
No, we're going to launch towards the end of September.
So how many have you done so far?
How many do I have taped?
Yeah.
Gosh. Probably 12 or 13.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, there've definitely been more than I anticipated. Some might get held over till a second season, when and where we decide to cap the first season. It really just depends upon work for both Brandon and myself, how many we're going to pump out, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than I anticipated. Yeah. Particularly because my big pet peeve with interview podcasts, most of them, no offense,
yeah, go ahead,
is that I don't listen to, and it's just, this is my taste.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to any of them. I tend to listen to highly edited storytelling like Radiolab, This American Life, things like that.
Yep.
And so my problem with a lot of interview podcasts is they just get slapped up as is, and I just lose my focus with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm inherently self-centered and start thinking about myself. Yeah. And so I decided that I wanted to really get down into the story, people's stories. Yeah. And that takes editing. Yeah. Because if you really force yourself to sit down and listen to a conversation you've already had 2 or 3 times in a row, you will realize that we do not speak linearly. linearly, excuse me, we skip all over the place.
Yeah.
And so, for whatever reason, I've been devoting a tremendous amount of time to each episode.
You edit it yourself?
Yeah.
Oh.
And Brandon's editing several episodes himself.
That's a lot. Well, I'm going to edit all but like a minute out of this. A really good minute. A really, really tight,
right.
interesting minute.
All right.
No, I do like the more unedited, more raw stuff. That's my taste.
Look, I mean, like, look at Mark Maron and...
I love those guys. I love Howard Stern. I love...
Stern, and look at Joe Rogan. Perfect example. He's got, like, how many downloads per episode? Like, it definitely... What they do definitely works. It's just not my particular taste.
Yeah. That's funny. So it'll debut... When is it going to debut?
It's gonna right around the launch of the television show.
Inhumans.
So late September.
And when I first met you back to on the line at STCC, you had a microphone in your hand.
Yeah.
And which took me by surprise.
Yeah.
And
you don't see that often, do you?
Well, I certainly don't, because they rush you so quickly in those lines. They're like, hurry up, and you're like, hey, stop for a second, and let me ask you a couple questions about.
You know what's great about that?
Comic-Con.
Is it, in a funny way, it's improved my relationship with the fans.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because there is some element when you're approached, in some way, I mean, like, I'm very grateful for my fans, don't get me wrong. But in a way, when you're approached, there's a lot of, it's either about Cullen, or Black Bull, or sometimes there's a lot of, I don't know, there's you can feel, when you're on this side of it, you can feel a kind of, it's strange to have people hand you a really high status that you don't feel that you've earned. And I'm still getting used to that.
Right.
Or, that every 1 out of 1,000 people that disdain you for no reason because they think you're a jerk, because famous people are jerks, right?
Yeah.
But suddenly having a microphone thrust at them is probably the last thing that these people would, and journalists as well, the last thing that someone approaching you is going to expect. And so it just kind of, it's like when I noticed when I first got my dog. I have a really cute dog, right?
What kind?
He's a French bulldog.
Oh, nice. And
the first few times I walked him, and I would have people come up to me and go, hey, aren't you? And they'd see Mac, and they go, oh my God. Right? And so suddenly we're talking about something else.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with this. When I'm asking them questions, it just evens it out a little. I think it gives some dignity back to them to say, oh, you're not just interested in me. You're actually interested in what I have to say. I like it.
Well, I mean, that's probably why you agreed to talk with me, a total stranger that you met at Comic-Con.
Right.
And I was like, hey, I have a podcast. You're like, sure, I'll talk to you if we can work it out. And so thank you for being so open to it.
Yeah, of course.
What kind of dog is Lockjaw? Isn't he a
English bulldog?
English bulldog. Were you inspired to get a dog after doing
Oh, no, I've had Mac. I got Mac. I got him on his 8th birthday, and he's 11 and a half now.
You got him. Okay, so he was 8 when you got him.
I adopted him, yeah.
Oh wow, so he was older. Oh, that's cute. I have a yellow lab. We got him when he was a puppy. I'm in love with him.
I bet. How long have you had him?
3.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, so same.
3.5 years. And were you always a dog person, an animal person?
Yeah, my father was that dad who adopted every stray that wandered past the house, and drove my mom insane. She likes animals. She doesn't understand the concept of having them in your house.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up with animals, and then I didn't really like them. At a certain point, I stopped liking animals, and then my girlfriend was talking about getting a dog, who wanted to get a dog, and I kind of just was like, okay, let's think about it. And a week later, I had a dog, but then I was complete reversal. Now I just love animals. I feel bad for. I have a lot of empathy for animals and stuff. I even watched these documentaries about veganism and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I would like to try to be a vegan, but I'm so addicted to food, I have a hard time.
I tried it one time for about 6 months, and I had to go to the doctor, and he was like, dude, you have no iron in your system. He was like, you need to either go take some iron supplements or you need to eat a piece of meat. And may I suggest, just eat a piece of meat. Your system does not deal with this.
Oh, wow.
You know, yeah, some it's not good for some people.
Yeah.
And we are omnivores.
I know. When you watch these documentaries, the world's getting affected, the atmosphere and everything from all the cows and the crap and all that stuff. It's always something.
Yeah. We definitely, I believe we probably we eat too much meat. When you look at, if you read a book called The China Study, it's a great book, and it's very eye-opening. If you chart countries according to amount of meat consumption, and then you lay it over a graph of countries according to rates of heart disease, it matches.
Yeah, of course.
And it, you can, when you see that, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And so
there's heart disease in my family, so
right. My fiance and I, we've started doing meatless Mondays. Okay. We're going to try to kick it up to maybe 2 days a week. But I'm particularly concerned about it because Alzheimer's runs in my family, and that's another thing that red meat consumption affects, because it's a buildup of fatty deposits in your brain is what it is.
The red meat will.
So red meat. No. So here's the deal. Red meat is not going to give you Alzheimer's.
Right. But if you're susceptible.
Alzheimer's. Yeah. You have. So Alzheimer's victims, they don't have, and this, my grandfather died of this. They don't have a particular enzyme that breaks down a particular fatty protein. Okay. And so what happens is that those tiny blood vessels in your brain, they will clog and then back up, and you'll get these gummy looking, it looks like pieces of bubble gum in your brain, and it's fat. It's protein. And so if you have Alzheimer's in your family, it's a good idea to watch your red meat consumption. Now look, I'm always going to want to roast a pig, right? Especially when there's something to celebrate. I am Southern, and I am into roasting pigs.
Sure.
And I will always roast ducks on a spit when I go camping.
Right.
But I am trying to start to watch that stuff a little bit, because I watched it happen to my grandfather and was not pretty.
That must have been painful.
I was pretty young, but it was painful, yeah.
Did you know what was happening?
In only the way a 6-year-old, 5 or 6-year-old can really grasp, Grandpa doesn't remember certain things, or Grandpa's confused, and then, Grandpa's gone away, and is never coming back, was a very hard. I remember learning that lesson, and there's just the sorrow, just the debilitating sorrow of your first experience with death, and it was Alzheimer's.
That's very sad. Was that your dad's dad? Mom's dad?
My mom's dad. Yeah, my father's father passed when he was a baby of tuberculosis and the Depression.
What happened with your dad? Can I ask what happened with your dad's first marriage?
It didn't work out.
But nobody.
That's not to ask too many questions about it. I've learned.
Nobody passed away or anything.
No.
Just was like, we had 3 kids. Let's move on.
Right.
Something like that. And by the way, so your name is Anson Adam Mount the Fourth.
Adams.
I'm sorry, Adams.
Anson Adams Mount the Fourth.
And your brother is Anson Adams Mount the Third.
That's right.
Your dad's the second.
Yes.
Well, I'm the third. I'm the third in my family. But it would be very strange if my dad named my brother the fourth with the same name. He just likes that name, I guess.
I haven't heard about it either. I don't see any rules against it. But my father was my father, before he was a sports writer, he was a theologian, and or he was a religion editor for Playboy, and he studied some theology. And his plan was to name me Matthew Mark after the first two books of the New Testament. And my mother, who's quite agnostic, said, over my dead body, why don't you name him Junior? And so they asked my brother for his permission to give me the same name. And he's like, yeah, cool, as long as you call him Adam.
Oh. So
for the first, 6, 7, 8 years of my life, I was Adam until I figured out what was going on, and I said, "Well, to hell with that. I'm not I'm not being told what I'm going to be called by my brother." So I was like, I switched to Anson. And yeah, it's a very Southern thing. I've got a couple of friends that are the fifth.
Oh.
Half the guys that I went to college with are some Roman numeral is after their name.
Right. You said fiance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you have children and a boy, are you going to?
No, I don't think so.
Has your brother done that? Does he have kids?
He has two girls.
Two girls, okay.
So,
do you think if there was a boy
the Mount name, it is up to me. We haven't decided if we want to have kids. First of all, if we do, and we have or adopt a boy, no, I'd like him to have his own identity. And
Mark Matthew or
no, well, you know what? There's a tradition in Dara's family where every name in a particular clan start, like hers is, all of her sisters, their names start with D. In another family, theirs all start with K.
Yeah, Kardashians.
Right. And
there's a bunch of people do that sometimes.
So we talked about maybe upping that game and starting a family with kids. Their names all start with X.
You got Xavier, Xander, maybe. You could cheat on Alexander. What else you got?
Yeah, Xander. Well, Xander's short for Alexander.
But you could cheat it.
Xavier, Xena,
Warrior Princess. Sure.
Xerxes.
Oh, I don't know that. Okay.
It's a Greek name, yeah.
It sounds Greek.
Yeah.
All right, and that's good. You have 4 kids. That's plenty. How long you been with your fiance?
We got engaged on our 2nd anniversary of meeting each other. We met on the 4th of July a couple years ago, when in my last order of Hell on Wheels. Yeah, she's a Canadian. She's a Albertan girl.
Is she an actress?
No. Oh no.
You say that like
she's a photographer.
Over my dead body, she's got to be an actress.
No, thank God she has no interest.
But she's a photographer, so she's a creative type.
Exactly. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You have somebody who understands what it takes to be an artist, but at the same time, your lives are different enough that you can be a sounding board outside of any of your bullshit.
Yeah. Can I ask how you proposed? Is that okay?
Yeah, I took her to Sewanee, where I went to undergrad. And several of my friends that when we were in my class, were with us. And Sewanee, they pay for a big fireworks show every year. And we went over to my English professor's house, and I said, "Come on, I want to show you something." And we let a friend take care of the dogs while I walked her down to this lake we got on campus called Lake Cheston, and it's my earliest memory of Sewanee is my father taking me to this lake. So we sat on the bench on the side of the lake and watched the fireworks, and they're going on above us and below us, and then I proposed.
Sounds sweet.
And she said, "Yeah."
Were you nervous?
Not really.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. It's gonna be sweet. There's gonna be fireworks.
Well, we kind of talked about it before.
Okay.
It was not. I mean, it was a surprise, but she knew it was coming at some point. So.
Did you pick the ring? Did she scout it out
We
beforehand?
kind of looked at styles, so because it's not something you want to mess up.
Yeah.
So we looked at styles, but then it was up to me to go and actually suss it out based on what little I knew, and I think I did all right.
All right. Well, she seems happy, right?
She seems happy.
So far?
Yeah,
When's
so
the big
far.
day?
Or she's a damn good liar.
Well, when's the...
We decided we're not going to do a ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Elope or something?
Yeah. So we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
We'll probably do a ceremony, and then at some point after we'll have a party in New York and a party in Calgary, and
a few parties.
We're going to try to get her parents down to Florida, where my parents are retired, so that we can have a tea ceremony and all that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What part of Florida are they?
They're on the Gulf Coast,
Mm-hmm.
just sort of south of Sarasota.
So I lived in Sarasota 3 years.
Pretty town, yeah.
It's pretty town. Not much to do though. I was back 20 years ago. I went to art school there for a little bit.
Oh, really? That Ringling?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. We went to, the last time we were there, we went and checked out the museum.
Jeez, did I go to the museum? I don't even remember a museum.
It's beautiful.
I don't know if I ever went there. Maybe it's a new museum? Do you know?
No, it's
old?
it's the museum that he built.
Okay.
It looks like a mansion, but it
Okay.
was built to be a museum, and it's incredible.
I may have gone. I don't remember. But, one of the Ringling brothers, I forget which one, developed this school, and there was a clown school at one point in that area, too, for Ringling brothers. That has gone away. But Steve O from Jackass studied there. A little trivia for you. In case you
That's
want
funny.
So I was reading up on you, and there was something that stuck out to me that I thought was pretty interesting. You did a movie with Robert De Niro called City by the Sea, and James Franco. How'd you get along with Bob?
Good. He's shy.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Mind like a steel trap.
Yeah.
And he works, he likes to work from a place of calm, and I really respect that. He must have it in his contract, I'm guessing, that everywhere we are, that there is some space, there is some vacated private space right next to the set, so he doesn't have to go all the way back to wherever base camp is. He can just immediately slip into a quiet place and get ready, and I respect that.
That's awesome.
Really friendly guy.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot.
So when you were on set, would you see him go off into this space and close a door or something? And
No, that's the thing. It took me weeks before I noticed that he had sort of slipped away, because he's quiet. He's really, really quiet.
Stealthy.
Yeah.
He's like Black Bolt.
But I was scared stiff.
Yeah,
Scared,
intimidated, right?
literally stiff. There are a couple of scenes I was in with him where I was just afraid to move, and you can see it. It's not a great performance.
I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm sure you did very good. Yeah, because you're excited you get to work with Robert De Niro, but then on the flip side is, holy shit, it's Robert De Niro. How am I going to do? I want to. Did you feel like you wanted to impress him? I would feel like, I hope I can impress him or something.
There is a threshold that you hit at a certain point with your own ability to be starstruck, where you start to learn that it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
And so thankfully there's a point in time at which that starts to go away. And the novelty of being around famous people just gets old. Not that they but you learn to start taking people on their own terms and as individuals, rather than that thing that you're associating with them with that image that you've seen becomes less helpful and less interesting than the actual person. And it takes a little while to get there, but when I taught, I said the same thing to my students. Just try to be mindful of that now and get there as fast as you can. Because you can't fake it.
Yeah.
You can't. That's even worse when you walk in and you try to be dismissive, or you try to pretend you're not excited to be there. You can read it. It's fake. But it is worth knowing that it doesn't help.
Yeah. Did you said you taught? Where'd you teach?
I taught part-time in the graduate acting program at Columbia for about 7 or 8 years.
How'd you like teaching?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's the best class.
Acting, I assume?
Yeah, it was the best class that I ever had. Because I learned far more than my students. There's something about being forced to articulate what it is that you do, especially when it's so ephemeral, to other people, that it forces you to drill down on your own process, because you have to articulate it. You have to lay it out. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's what I do, or you're just gonna stand there like an idiot. You're gonna be confusing them more than helping them.
Right. And
that process, it forces you to consider your own technique, your own what it is that you do that works, and what it is that you sometimes do that doesn't work. Yeah. I was told by a teacher a long time ago that you're not done learning until you teach, and he was damn right.
Have you seen any of your students go on? Do you ever see them on TV or something? Go, hey, I remember that guy.
Yeah, I had a couple of them on Hell on Wheels.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
A few of them, yeah.
Back to City by the Sea. So I read that you did a movie called Crossroads with Britney Spears, and that Robert DeNiro encouraged you to do that. Is that true?
Do you really want to ask the same question that every journalist on this planet has asked? Do you really want to do that?
I'm so tempted to say yes.
That is the question that is going to be etched on my tombstone.
Oh, well, I get the
and
answer
it has been so blown out of proportion.
Oh, really?
That it's not even worth discussing.
Is that worth discussing? All right, we'll skip it. Well, how was Britney Spears to work with? Can I ask that?
Lovely. Lovely.
Nice. I mean, she was trying to get, she did some acting stuff, and that was kind of a big deal for her, that movie.
Yeah. She was great.
Yeah.
She was great. She was so polite to everyone.
Southern.
Everybody in the crew. Southern, yeah. And great work ethic, which was no surprise. And just enjoyed being there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
She wasn't like a diva and was late.
No. She was always on time, always prepared, always listening. Just good girl.
You had a couple awesome other actors on that movie. Zoe Saldana.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Another Marvel person.
Yeah.
And Taryn Manning, who's on Orange is the New Black. She's fantastic.
I know. I saw her at a Christmas party a couple of years ago. It's the first time we'd seen each other in a dog's age. Because she's on there with my friend Leah Delaria. And so we managed to catch her. It was so great to see her. But it's weird. This business, it's like a string of summer camps. You go into these experiences. You have this really intense short-term friendships. People go their separate ways to do other summer camps. And then you'll see each other a decade later, and you're in a completely different part of your life.
Yeah.
And so much has happened. But you do kind of know the person. It's interesting.
Well, time goes so fast.
Yeah.
That it's been 10 years, but you're like, oh shit, has it been 10 years?
It's insane how fast it starts to move.
You live in New York. Why not LA?
Why not New York?
I don't know. Why do you like New York?
There are very few places on this planet that you can walk out your front door and go see world-class art
that's true.
of any medium every single day and not run out of things to see.
That's true.
New York, Berlin, Paris, maybe. Rome, probably. London.
I
would not put LA in that category.
What do you like doing the most? What do you like seeing the most in New York? Museums or theater?
Museums, yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, almost all my friends are artists, so there's always something to go and see.
Yeah, right.
But then there are times, I'm a country boy, so there are times I can sort of look up and go, you know what? I've been in the city for 2 months, and I have got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, I have a job where I travel a lot, and that doesn't happen too often. But if I am in the city for too long,
yeah,
I go a little insane. So
during the winter.
The next step is to get a place upstate, I think, as well, and do both.
What part you think?
I like the Catskills.
Do you ski? Do you do any of that stuff?
Not really.
Maybe you will.
No.
Maybe you start.
I just like the mountains.
How are we on time? Let me see. 12:51. Okay, we got what 10? How much? When do you want to be done?
Maybe another 10 minutes.
Okay. You did a movie called Nonstop.
Yes.
A friend of mine co-wrote that.
Oh, really?
Chris Roach.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He was a former guest on Scratch the Surface. You did a movie SEAL Team 6, Raid on Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Did you kill him? Did you kill?
I did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How'd that feel? What was that?
Well, it was me and Cam Gigande both shot him.
What's that?
That was a hard shoot, dude.
I bet.
That was a hard shoot. Not an easy movie to make. Very talented director, I gotta say.
John Stockwell.
Very talented, yeah.
Who we're both in our 40s. We grew up with John Stockwell as an actor.
Yeah.
And Christine.
He's a very good director.
Yeah.
He had cameras rolling on our gun. We had gun-mounted cameras and we had a dog-mounted camera. We had cameras on our helmets. We had cameras rolling all the time. There's more footage on that than anything I'd ever shot.
Wow.
But I got to know Freddie Rodriguez and Exhibit really well.
Yeah.
On that shoot. And I actually, in fact, I was just trading texts with Exhibit. We're trying to find each other while I'm out here.
You should let him pimp your ride. He's really good at it.
He and I live such different lives. I go to see him. He's shooting he's getting ready to shoot a video and wants me to come over and see the set. So I go over and we walk outside and we're hanging out and a couple of his bodyguards are with him and he goes what are you doing this weekend? I was like, nothing. He goes, you like to fish? And I was like, yeah, I fish. And he goes, all right, we're gonna rent a boat. We're gonna go out on the ocean. We're gonna do some real fishing. And then one of his bodyguards piped up and goes, yo, man, we're going to Moscow. We're going where? We're going to Moscow this weekend.
Russia?
He was like, we're going to Moscow. Oh no, I can't go fishing, man. I'm going to Moscow. It's like, how do you not know you're going to Moscow?
I just forgot. I didn't write it down.
Yeah.
I didn't have a string on my finger.
Right.
That's hilarious. Well, you have 45 acting credits on IMDb, so you've had a really busy career. And is there anything that stands out that you're most proud of, or anything? Instead of asking about all of them, which I could do.
I mean, I guess Hell on Wheels, just because it was the biggest chunk of material I've ever produced. But then I guess Cook County was the first movie I produced, so I'm particularly fond of that. I don't know.
Chicago thing, right?
No.
Sounds like
No.
Cook County. If you had yourself on your podcast, what would you ask you?
I'm not sure. I've never. That's a strange question.
Yeah.
What would I ask me?
Yeah. Maybe there's something I'm missing.
Uh,
And time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, that's cool. Maybe I asked it already.
Maybe.
Maybe I already asked it. Well, hey man, I'll let you go. Hopefully this will be part 1, and we'll do a part 2 sometime in the future.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
I'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
Do you want to plug your Twitter, Instagram, anything like that?
Oh yeah, Twitter is at Anson Mount. Instagram is at Anson Mount. Facebook is at Anson Mount 1.
That's the first.
The well will be launching in the latter part of September, and we'll have a website and social media platforms as well.
Is your brother on any social media? Because I don't want to get confused.
Yes.
With Anson Mount. Watch out for
he's
other
out
Anson
there.
Mounts.
Yeah, he's dangerous. Watch him.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And best of luck with Inhumans.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And your podcast.
Yeah.
And scene. That's how I end it. That's how I end it usually. Cool. Thanks so much, Anson. I hope everybody enjoyed our talk, and I'm hoping that is only a part 1 and that I get to talk to him again sometime. Thank you so much for your time and talking with me. And everybody go check out Inhumans, September 1st. If you can't check it out in the theater, go check it out on ABC at the end of September. And check out Anson's podcast, of course. Find him on the social media and all that good stuff. All right, and speaking of which, find me one more time for my plugs. Twitter at EJ Scott and at EJ Podcast. Instagram, EJ Scott 1106. My website, ejscott.com. The charities, crowdrise.com/7on7. Running Blind documentary on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon. For only $2 or $3, you could see a really well done documentary. And I think that's it. And you can subscribe, by the way, to my podcasts on iTunes and iHeartRadio. And don't miss any of my future podcasts. And go check out my past podcasts if you haven't already. I got a lot of great guests on there. And that's about it for now, folks. See you next time.